Welcome to Oregon Cash Flow Pro. This is week one recap of our $34,000 0% interest credit card challenge. And the word of the week is turbulence. This may end up being a recurring theme. How many of you have this happen? When you get into a position, either you're buying a stock or you're buying an option, you have a thesis, and almost immediately the exact opposite happens. All right, that's basically the story of our trading career. It's why I gravitate toward trading, selling income, doing the things that, like, I don't know if the market's going to go up or down. I watch this thing all the time, but it does some crazy stuff, especially in the short term. Usually in the long term, it kind of plays out, but timing it is a challenge. And so it's attracted me to get into selling premium. Either we're selling covered calls or we're selling puts or put spreads or call spreads, something where we're going to harvest that time value and we're going to take advantage of the market when it can do two things, not that it has to do one thing. Meaning, if I sell a call, we're basically betting on the market going down or sideways. Now, oftentimes we can even absorb a small increase, but instead of just betting on the increase, we're betting that it's going to do one of the other two things. Same thing, selling a put. We sell a put. We take advantage of that if the market goes up or sideways or goes down a little bit. Depends on where you sell the put. So we have a little more advantage when we are not exactly picking what the market is going to do at any given time, because the market is a fickle beast. So turbulence. As soon as we entered our position last week, the market went down. Now, you remember what I said? We were going to enter this slowly because I did anticipate that we would have a market drop. We entered into a number of positions that were all credit spreads. They were put credit spreads. But we wanted to try and give ourselves enough room to the downside that even if the market did come back down, we're going to be okay. If we end up getting assigned, because we're trying to do the wheel strategy here on a few things, but it's a modified wheel strategy where we're using spreads, so we're using less capital. So we didn't utilize very much of our buying power to get into those positions. But if we end up getting assigned, then it should be in positions that are going to be fairly safe. Remember, our number one goal in this challenge, preserve capital. We want to minimize the risk. That's why we're going pretty far outside the money with the spreads that we got into. We're not targeting really big wins at the moment. We're trying not to spend a whole lot of time. We want minimal time commitment, but we want and need consistent profits if we're going to be successful. Okay, first a quick recap and an update. These are the cards that we transferred money from. We actually did get the other two transfers that came in, and I was off a little bit on the value of one of them. It's 10,500, not 11, but we also have an extra 6 or 7 months of 0%. So these are the days left for paying off these loans from these credit cards. My calculations here are based on 365 days. So if over the course of 1 year, if we just want to recoup the fees, we need to make about $792 a day, $55.58 a week, or $240.83 per month. And that will cover all the fees for doing the transferring over the next year. If we want to pay off the principal and the fees, we're going to need $170 per day, almost $1,200 per week, and almost $5,200 per month. We're not going to be consistent trading that way. We're going to hopefully target closer to this, because this is the hope that hopefully we can pay everything off, but we don't have to. We actually have, we have way more than a year with which to pay this back. And we have well over a year to pay this one back as well. So we're not too concerned with these numbers, getting that quick payout, and we're not going to take excessive risk in order to do it. So we at least want to do this. Let's see where we're at right now. These are the raw trades. This spreadsheet, by the way, available if you're in our Discord. Go to the channel, $34,000 credit card challenge. Now this is turning into a bigger challenge than that because we got some other funds coming in. They're not fully transferred yet. So we're still working with just the initial transfer of $34,000. These are all the trades that happen. You can see the dates over here. Let me just scroll over or this way, where it's easier to actually read the dates. And let's do a brief look at what we did. Here's the spreads that we initially put on last week. And if you go back and you look at the charts, this one dropped immediately after we put it on. This one went down. Triple Q came down and actually almost touched our short leg. Mastar, now there was one day that this one came down and almost touched as well. I think it came down to 316. Tesla at one point came down, but didn't really threaten this. Coin didn't really threaten this, but it did drop. NVIDIA, that was our tough one for the week. NVIDIA came down and went all the way down and touched our other side. So we almost took a full loss on the NVIDIA spread. And then Lulu, similar situation. Lulu was up at over 200 when we entered this position. And good thing we went down as low as we did because it didn't have good earnings. And it went down and it actually touched this and kind of went into it a little bit. So this one looked like it was in trouble. We added a position at one point. Looks like it was on the second. We added Hood. So we saw an opportunity to make a little bit with Robinhood, added that one. And then we saw another opportunity with Tesla and we entered a 4 contract Tesla position. A couple of days later, we managed to get out of the Tesla position, took our profits. We were pretty happy with what ended up happening with that one. Again, we're not trying to be greedy here and we're not trying to do day trading. I was expecting to hold that Tesla position longer. I had put it on with the options expiring the following week, but we saw an opportunity. Market was very unstable and we ended up exiting that position and took our profits. At the same time that we ended up closing some other things. So the market recovered a little bit and we saw a chance to get out of a lot of our spreads for at least a 50% profit off of what we had sold it for. So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up closing most of them for the 50% profit, but there was a couple that we weren't able to. But let's go to our profit tracking here. As you can see, we have a big negative number here, but we're not actually negative. This is because we had to buy some long positions on NVIDIA and Webull. Shares that we actually own are here on Webull. So if we go back to these raw trades right here, what I ended up doing, because we had a spread on Webull before the end of the day, because I didn't want to wait till the end of the day and just be left with a loss on the spread and no shares, because we're doing the wheel strategy, right? It's a modified wheel strategy. So we're using spreads, but I didn't see an opportunity to just get out of our long put, collect money, and then not know if the short put is going to actually continue to fall throughout the end of the day. So we didn't want to just get assigned there without closing out of that whole position. So what we did, we closed out of that position, and then I immediately went and just bought shares as if I got assigned. So rather than wait until we get assigned, we did it this way. And we're utilizing less capital in the process. So we ended up just picking up the shares ourselves and then selling our calls. So we're entering into the wheel strategy. And we're doing that with Webull because the price is very low. It didn't cost a whole lot. We had a couple of contracts. And so now we have 200 shares. Well, we had to do something similar with NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA, it was clear looking at NVIDIA that we were going to lose on our put spread. So we ended up getting into a long position. We went out to October 24th, and we're going to step over and look at the actual account, and I'll show you these positions. In fact, let's do that now. All right, here is our current positions with NVIDIA. What I wanted to do was go out far enough that the call that we bought had a delta of at least 0.8 and very little extrinsic value. So this is the extrinsic value. This is the delta. The extrinsic value means I paid a premium of $367 to buy this call. That's the time value left in this trade. The theta is how much it loses in that time value each day. So this is losing about $7 a day. This is a good position for us rather than buying 100 shares of NVIDIA, which is what would normally happen if I let the wheel strategy play out and we used way more capital to have these positions. We had the 170 sold. I would have had to put out $17,000 for NVIDIA. Well, instead of putting out $17,000, we spent $2,500 and we paid a premium of $300 for that. All right. Along with that, we sold an iron condor. So this is our next potential entry into the wheel strategy. Now I did it at 48 days out here, which like normally you want to be between 30 and 60 days on your sells. But if I'm doing an iron condor, I want to be out that far. The theta on this is very low, but pretty consistent. We're able to go out quite a ways. And in fact, I was able to match this and still get a little bit of premium. So ultimately, we collected $108 for the iron condor that has a call credit spread out at 190 to 195 and a put credit spread at 140 to 145. So it gives NVIDIA a chance to move quite a bit in either direction. At the same time, we bought our call at 145 and we sold a call at 170. Remember, 170 was our assignment price. If NVIDIA, which ended the day at 167, if NVIDIA moves up to 170, we roll it out to the next week. And if it keeps going up, we're going to keep rolling. We're basically looking to just make a profit on this that makes up for the loss that we took. The loss that we took on NVIDIA ended up being $253. Not too bad. I'm actually pretty okay with that because it was looking like it was going to be almost a full loss at over $400 at one point. So this is where we're at. We're at 253. We have an iron condor and we have a long call and we're selling short calls against it, letting it move back up. So instead of owning the shares, we own the call. Here on Webull, we own the shares and we're selling the call. I didn't see a good buy point for getting into selling a put again, which is what I would want to do. We're going to be running the wheel strategy on this. And so we're waiting till Monday and we're going to see where Webull ends up. But we may end up selling another put, but it's going to be for a little bit farther out in time. So we're not going to do it weekly on the put side, and it'll probably be another put spread. Not necessarily though, because this one actually doesn't tie up very much capital if we just sell a naked put. We re-entered Lulu, and what we did, we actually did this before the earnings. We ended up going out 132 days. We went down to the 125 strike price. We received $370 for that. This was way outside the money. It didn't require a whole lot of capital. So our potential return in a little over 4 months is going to be about 10% if it doesn't get to that price. Now, Lulu took a big drop, and so we're showing quite a bit of a loss at the moment. We'll let that play out. If we look at the chart on Lulu, this is going to be a major all-time low. Like Lulu's definitely not looking good at the moment, but we'll see if it ends up getting down this far. Mastar. We re-entered a position here and we took a little bit longer position as well. So we went 27 days out down to the 150 strike price. We were able to sell this as a naked call as well for $80. It did require a little bit of capital. This capital here for this one is $500. So it required about $3,000 in capital, but we got $80 and it's only 1 month to expiration. So this ends up being a really good return. All in all, we're looking at $14 a day in theta. This symbol right here tells you this is the theta column. This is time value. $14 a day bleeds away from Mastar in time value. $9 of it from this position, which is what we like. Remember, on our spreadsheet, we only need just under $8 a day to cover all of our fees. So with just that one position with Mastar, which it's not likely to get back down to 150, we've got that time value covered for that part. And then everything else all together. Our theta now is at $50 a day that we're potentially earning. Now that's if the market just trades sideways. But essentially that time value is going to bleed out one way or the other. And if we're doing the wheel strategy, we're going to take advantage of the time value, whether the stock's going up or down. That's our hope. Triple Q, we re-entered, but we only went $3 wide. We're back in at the 560, expiring in 6 days. And Tesla, we're back in. We went 330, 325. So we got a $500 spread there. And for this one, $51. So about a 10% return on Tesla over the next week. We've got a little under that. This is more like a 7% return here on Triple Q as our potential. NVIDIA, this one should end up being a really high potential because we're now onto the call side. This is one that we can push and make quite a bit of money compared to the risk that we're putting out, especially when we're using the calls instead of owning the actual shares. The Iron Condor, $108, risk is $500. That's a 20% return over 48 days. That's going to be pretty good if we end up profiting on both of those. Now, if it goes down, we're going to enter the wheel strategy again in this situation. If it goes up, we make profit on our long call and we get out of this, but we're going to continue rolling this out for those 48 days. So we're going to make more money here if this gets threatened. And if this gets threatened, we're just going to be entering this position. We get to keep the profits here and we keep this rolling. That's the idea. So NVIDIA is going to end up paying out quite a bit. This is how we're going to end up making quite a bit of our money, we hope, in order to meet our goals. Mastar, $41, risk is $500. So we're at an 8% gain over the next week, potentially at full profits. This one here, $80, risk is $3,500. That's over 27 days. That's the equivalent of like a 32% annualized return. Pretty good for being able to go so far out of the money. Lulu, this is like a 20% annualized return. So we're trying to get some base hits here. We're not just swinging for home runs. And here's where we're at. We started with $34,000 in this account. We're down $400, but we did collect some premium and we're in positions that we do expect to make money. All in all, we're profitable on Triple Q, Tesla, Coin, Mastar, Lulu, and Hood at the moment. We took a small loss on Bull and NVIDIA, and we're in long positions, but we do expect these to turn green at some point. That's our update for the challenge. If you have questions about this, put them in the comment section. Happy to talk about it. If you have suggestions, things that you think I should consider doing, let me know. Now, one thing we are considering doing, and we're going to get into this over time, is we're going to start taking some of these profits that we're booking, and we're going to be purchasing some high yield dividend ETFs, with the goal being they will kick off some value. We're going to set that aside to pay these credit cards off, and we'll still have the shares of those at the end of this so that we can just keep earning income. But we're going to be judicious in how we go about doing that. So I'm interested to hear what you think and how you would like to see me update this in the future. If you have thoughts and ideas, put them in the comment section. And like I said, the spreadsheet is available to our Discord members. You can join our Discord by just becoming a channel member or a patron. Links are in the comment section below. Good luck to you out there. We'll see you next week when we update on this again. The next 20 seconds determine your future. Subscribe, meet with me, or continue educating yourself with these videos right over here. I appreciate you. Now go maximize your cash flow.